I was right. It was fraud. Not just any fraud. Real estate fraud, forgery, theft of everything my husband and I had built over 35 years. But let me start at the beginning, because the truth matters, and so does how I found it. My name is Margaret, and I'm 72 years old. I live in Arizona, in a state where the sun shines 300 days a year and where I thought I knew every detail of my life. I was wrong about that second part. Let me pour you some coffee. I always make a full pot these days, even though it's just me now. Old habits, you know. Cream, sugar, good. Get comfortable, because this story takes time to tell properly. Where are you watching from? What state? I ask because location matters in stories like mine. Laws differ. Rights differ. What happens in Arizona might not happen where you are. I married Robert Martinez in 1987. I was 37. He was 41. Second marriage for both of us. My first husband had died in a car accident 2 years prior. Robert was divorced, raising a teenage son from his first marriage. We met at a real estate seminar in Scottsdale. He was charming, ambitious, and he made me laugh after 2 years of grief. We married 6 months later. The early years were good, really good. Robert worked in commercial real estate, and I was a paralegal at a small firm downtown. We both worked hard. By 1995, we'd saved enough to buy our first rental property, a modest duplex in Tempe near the university. Students rented both units. The income was steady. Robert said we should buy more. Real estate is how you build wealth in Arizona, he told me. The population's growing. People keep moving here. We buy now, we retire rich. He was right about the growth. By 2010, we owned 3 properties: the original duplex, a 4-unit apartment building in Mesa, and a commercial space in Chandler that we leased to a dental office. Between the rental income and our salaries, we were comfortable. Not wealthy, but secure. We had plans. Travel once we retired. Help with our grandchildren's education. Maybe buy a small place in San Diego for winters. I handled the day-to-day management, tenant calls, minor repairs, collecting rent checks. Robert handled what he called the big picture: mortgages, property taxes, insurance, the business accounts. He was better with numbers, he said. I had my hands full with work and managing the properties. It made sense to divide responsibilities. I trusted him completely. That was my mistake. The first sign something was wrong came in January of 2022. I was making breakfast when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Martinez? A man's voice. Professional. Clipped. Yes? This is David Chen from Southwest Property Title. I'm calling regarding the Mesa property sale last month. We're missing some final paperwork for our records. I stood very still, the spatula frozen over the pan. I'm sorry, what sale? A pause. The 4-unit building on University Drive in Mesa. The sale that closed on December 15th. We just need you to sign. I didn't sell that property. Another pause, longer. Mrs. Martinez, according to our records, both you and your husband signed the closing documents. I have copies here with your signature. My hands started shaking. There must be a mistake. I never signed anything. I didn't know we were selling. I see. His voice changed, became careful. Mrs. Martinez, I'm going to suggest you contact your husband and perhaps an attorney. I'll email you copies of the documents we have on file. What's your email address? I gave it to him, my voice mechanical. After we hung up, I stood in my kitchen, eggs burning in the pan, and felt the ground shift beneath my feet. Robert was at a job site that morning. I called him 3 times. No answer. I checked my email obsessively. When the documents finally came through at 10:47 a.m., I opened them with trembling fingers. There was my signature. Right there on the deed transfer. My signature, next to Robert's, dated the 15th of December 2021. Selling our Mesa property for $385,000 to a company called Summit Holdings, LLC, but I hadn't signed it. I hadn't even known we were selling. I zoomed in on the signature. It looked like mine, the loop of the M, the sharp downstroke on the G. but I had never, ever signed this document. Robert came home at 6 that evening. I was sitting at the kitchen table, the printed documents spread in front of me. "Hey, honey. Sorry I missed your calls. I was in back-to-back meetings with the contractor." He stopped when he saw my face. "What's wrong? When did we sell the Mesa property?" He went very still. Just for a second, maybe 2. Then his face rearranged itself into confusion. "What?" "The 4-unit building. When did we sell it?" "We didn't sell it." "What are you talking about?" I pushed the papers across the table. Southwest Property Title called me today. They said it closed on December 15th. "Here's the deed. With my signature on it." He picked up the papers, and I watched his face. Watched carefully. He was good, I'll give him that. His expression showed all the right things. Confusion, concern, growing alarm. "This doesn't make sense," he said. "I never agreed to sell, and you obviously didn't either. This must be some kind of fraud. We should call the police." "That's my signature," I said quietly. "It can't be. You didn't sign it, right?" "No, but it looks exactly like my signature." He frowned, studying it. "Identity theft, maybe? Someone forged it? This is serious, Margaret. We need to report this immediately." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. He sounded so convincing, so concerned, but something in my gut twisted. "Do you remember?" I said slowly. "A few years ago, you had me sign some blank forms. You said they were for tax purposes, deductions on the rental properties." His expression didn't change, but I saw his hand tighten on the paper. "I don't remember that." "I do. It was 2019. You brought home a stack of forms and said your accountant needed my signature on file. Just signatures, no dates, for flexibility with filing deadlines." "Margaret, I think you're confused." "Am I?" I looked at him directly. "Because that's my signature, and if someone forged it, they're very, very good. But if you had my signature already, on a blank form, you could just add it to any document you wanted, couldn't you?" We stared at each other across the kitchen table. The silence stretched. "You're being paranoid," he said finally. "I understand you're upset, but accusing me. Where's the money?" $385,000. "Where did it go?" "I don't know what you're talking about." But his voice had changed, harder, defensive. "I'm going to find out," I said. He slammed the papers down. "Do whatever you want. I'm not going to stand here and be accused by my own wife." He left, took his truck, and didn't come home until after midnight. By then, I was in the guest room with the door locked. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the dark and thought about 35 years of marriage, about trust, about the tax forms I'd signed without reading, about how Robert always handled the big picture while I managed the day-to-day, about how stupid I'd been. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Robert had already left before I got up. I sat at my computer and started searching. I'm 72, but I'm not helpless with technology. My daughter Sarah taught me how to use Google effectively, how to check public records, how to search property databases. I started with Maricopa County property records. The Mesa property showed sold the 15th of December 2021. Buyer, Summit Holdings, LLC. I searched for Summit Holdings. The company had been registered in Delaware in October 2021. No other information available publicly. I checked our other properties. The Tempe duplex was still in our names. The Chandler commercial property was, my stomach dropped, also sold. The 28th of October 2021. Buyer, Southwest Investment Group, LLC. Sale price, 465,000, 0. 2 properties, gone, nearly $850,000, and I'd known nothing about it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. I checked our joint bank account. The balance was $14,237. Normal. Where was the money from 2 property sales? I spent 3 hours going through every online account I could access. Nothing showed deposits of $385,000 or $465,000. Nothing showed any unusual activity at all except I paused. There were monthly transfers, $3,000, like clockwork, on the 15th of every month since November 2021, going to an account I didn't recognize. The description just said, Property Management, Mexico. Mexico. I sat back. My heart was pounding. Robert had mentioned a few times over the years that he had friends in Mexico, real estate contacts in Cabo, in Puerto Vallarta. Could be a good investment, he'd said. I'd never paid much attention. I needed help. Professional help. I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? My husband might have forged my signature, might have stolen money, but I had no proof beyond a gut feeling. I thought about calling a lawyer, but I didn't even know what kind of lawyer. I thought about calling Sarah, but I couldn't bear to tell my daughter that her stepfather might be a thief. Then I remembered. One of the attorneys at my old firm had mentioned a private investigator once, said he was good, discreet, specialized in financial fraud. I'd filed the information away without thinking I'd ever need it. I found his card in my desk. Martinez Investigations. The irony of the name wasn't lost on me. I called. A man answered on the second ring. Martinez Investigations, this is Tony. Mr. Martinez, my name is Margaret. Collins. I used my maiden name without thinking. I need help investigating my husband. What kind of investigating, ma'am? I think he's been stealing from me, selling our properties and hiding the money. I need to know for sure before I do anything legal. I see. Can you come to my office this afternoon? Say, 2 o'clock? I was there at 1:55. Tony Martinez was about 50, with gray at his temples and kind eyes. His office was small but professional. He offered me coffee, which I declined. My stomach couldn't handle it. Why don't you tell me what brought you in today, Mrs. Collins? Margaret Collins. But my married name is Martinez, too. I managed a weak smile. Small world. He smiled back. It is. Now, tell me what's going on. I told him everything. The phone call from the title company, the signatures I'd signed on blank forms years ago, the property sales I'd known nothing about, the monthly transfers to Mexico. As I talked, he took notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Mrs. Collins, what you're describing sounds like systematic financial fraud. Possibly forgery, definitely theft if he sold properties without your knowledge or consent. You could go to the police right now. I need proof first, real proof, and I need to know everything. Where the money went, what else he's hiding, all of it. That's going to cost money. My retainer is $4,000, and depending on what I find, there could be additional expenses. Travel, database searches, document retrieval. I thought about our joint account, the $14,237. If I withdrew $4,000, Robert would see it. He'd know. Then I thought about my secret fund, the one I'd built up over 30 years from birthday money, the occasional cash gift, small amounts skimmed from my paychecks before direct deposit. Money Robert didn't know about because I'd never told him. I'd kept it for emergencies, for something that was just mine. This qualified. I can pay you in cash, I said. Today. He nodded. Then I'll get started immediately. I'll need copies of those deed documents, your property records, bank statements if you can get them without arousing suspicion, and your husband's full name and date of birth. I gave him everything. When I left his office 45 minutes later, I was $4,000 poorer and terrified. But also, for the first time in 2 days, I felt like I was doing something instead of just waiting to fall apart. Tony called me 3 days later. Mrs. Collins, can you come to my office? I've found something. I was there within the hour. He had his laptop open and several printed documents on his desk. His expression was grim. I ran a background check on your husband, Robert James Martinez, date of birth the 15th of March, 1946. Everything seemed normal at first. Credit history, property records, business licenses. But then I found something that doesn't add up. He turned the laptop toward me. On the screen was a property listing, a luxury condo in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Ocean views, infinity pool. The listing said it had sold in January 2022 for $520,000. I don't understand, I said. Look at the buyer name. I leaned closer. RM Properties LLC. RM. Robert Martinez. It's registered in his name. He bought this condo in January, right after the Mesa property sold. For cash, I couldn't breathe. The room felt like it was tilting. There's more, Tony said gently. I found the LLC registration. The address listed is a law office in Mexico City, but I contacted them. They confirmed they set up the company for Robert Martinez, and I found something else. He pulled out a printed document, a bank statement from Banco Nacional de Mexico. The account holder was RM Properties LLC. The balance was $387,000. That's the rest of the Mesa sale money, I whispered. Yes. And there are monthly deposits of $3,000. The property management transfers, going to his own account in Mexico. But wait, I said, my lawyer brain kicking in despite the shock. If he's sending money to himself, where's it coming from? Tony pulled out another document. Your rental income. The Tempe duplex. He never stopped collecting rent. It's still generating about $3,000 a month. But instead of going into your joint account, it's been redirected to Mexico since November 2021. He's been stealing our rental income for over a year. Yes, I sat in silence, trying to process. 2 properties sold without my knowledge. Nearly $900,000 in a Mexican bank account. A luxury condo. Monthly theft of our rental income. There's one more thing, Tony said. His voice had changed, become even more careful. I did some checking on the property itself, the condo in Puerto Vallarta, and I found social media posts. He clicked something on his laptop, then turned it toward me again. Instagram. A woman's profile. The name said Carmen Rodriguez. She was younger than me, maybe 45. Pretty, with dark hair and a bright smile. And in photo after photo, she was standing on a balcony with an ocean view, the same view from the condo listing. I scrolled down, more photos. Carmen in the infinity pool, Carmen on the beach, Carmen holding a cocktail at sunset. And then my heart stopped. Carmen and Robert. They were sitting at a restaurant table, holding hands across the plates. He was looking at her the way he used to look at me, 35 years ago. The caption said, Mi amor y yo, number Puerto Vallarta, number paradise found, number blessed life. The post was dated 3 weeks ago. I couldn't speak. I just stared at the screen, at my husband's face, at his hand holding hers. I'm sorry, Tony said quietly. Who is she? Carmen Rodriguez. I haven't been able to find much yet, but based on her other posts, she's from Texas originally. Moved to Puerto Vallarta about 2 years ago. She posts a lot about finding true love later in life and new beginnings. Does she know about me? I don't know yet. Give me a few more days and I'll find out. I looked at Tony Martinez, this stranger who now knew my most painful secret. What do I do? That depends on what you want. You could go to the police right now with what we have. Forgery, fraud, theft, probably wire fraud since money crossed state lines into Mexico. Or we can dig deeper first. Make sure we have everything before you make a move. Dig deeper. I need to know everything. Every lie, every dollar, all of it. He nodded. I'll keep investigating. In the meantime, don't let him know you suspect anything. Act normal. Can you do that? Could I? Could I sit across the dinner table from a man who'd stolen nearly $1 million from me, who had a mistress in Mexico who'd been living a double life? Could I smile and ask about his day and pretend my world wasn't crumbling? Yes, I said. I can do that. For the next 2 weeks, I became an actress. I got up every morning, made coffee, asked Robert about his meetings. I managed the remaining rental property. I went to work. I came home and made dinner. I went to bed in the guest room, claiming I had insomnia and didn't want to disturb him. He seemed relieved by the distance. Every few days, Tony would call with updates. He'd found more social media posts. He'd traced more money transfers. He discovered that Carmen didn't seem to know about me. Her posts talked about Robert as her soulmate, about finally finding the one. In one post, she mentioned they'd met in 2019 at a real estate conference in Houston. The same year he'd had me sign those blank forms. Tony found text messages between them. Robert had gotten sloppy, backing up his phone to a cloud account with a password, Tony cracked. The messages were nauseating. Love notes, plans for their future together. And then, one message from Robert that made my blood run cold. Just one more property to sell, mi amor. Then I'll have everything liquidated. We can disappear completely, start our real life together. He was planning to leave, to sell the last property, take everything, and vanish to Mexico with Carmen. When do you think he'll make his move? I asked Tony. Based on his messages, soon. He's been trying to get you to sign more documents, has he? I thought back. Yes. Last week, Robert had mentioned something about refinancing the Tempe property. Better interest rates, he'd said. I just need your signature on some forms. I told him I was too busy at work. I'd do it later. I'd saved myself without knowing it. We need to move faster, Tony said. Before he sells the last property, I'm going to recommend you contact a lawyer. I know someone good, specializes in financial fraud and family law. Do it, I said. 2 days later, I sat in another office with another professional, Catherine Wong, attorney at law. She listened to everything, reviewed Tony's evidence, and then looked at me with steel in her eyes. Mrs. Martinez, your husband has committed multiple crimes: forgery, fraud, embezzlement, potentially bigamy if he tried to marry Carmen in Mexico. You have enough evidence to have him arrested right now. The question is, what do you want? I want every dollar back. I want him punished. And I want to make sure Carmen doesn't get to keep what he stole from me. Catherine smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Then here's what we're going to do. The plan was simple but required perfect timing. We'd file a civil lawsuit first, seeking immediate seizure of assets before Robert could move them. Simultaneously, we'd file a criminal complaint with evidence of the forgery and fraud. We'd contact Mexican authorities about the condo purchased with stolen funds, and we'd serve him with divorce papers and a restraining order all at once. We'd hit him from every direction before he knew what was happening. When? I asked. This Friday. I'll have everything filed by Thursday close of business. Friday morning, we'll have a sheriff serve him at his office. Can you be somewhere safe that day? I thought about Sarah. My daughter lived in Flagstaff, 3 hours north. Yes, I'll go to my daughter's. Good. Don't tell him where you're going. Just leave. That Wednesday night, I packed a bag. Not everything, just enough for a few days. Some clothes, my laptop, important documents I'd secretly copied. I waited until Robert was asleep, then I loaded my car. Thursday, I went to work like normal. Came home, made dinner. Robert was distracted, on his phone constantly, probably texting Carmen, planning his escape. Let him plan. Friday morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. I left a note on the kitchen table, gone to Flagstaff to visit Sarah for the weekend. Back Sunday, M. I drove north as the sun rose over the desert. I was 3 hours away when Catherine called. It's done. He's been served. The sheriff said he's very angry. My phone started ringing 30 seconds later. Robert. I didn't answer. He called 6 more times, left voicemails that progressed from confused to angry to desperate. I deleted them without listening all the way through. The lawsuit laid it all out. Every forged signature, every property sale, every dollar stolen, the condo in Mexico, Carmen, all of it filed in public court records for anyone to see. Robert called Sarah. She answered and told him I was with her but didn't want to talk to him. What did you do, Robert? She demanded. Mom won't tell me, but she's devastated. He tried to lie to her, tried to say it was all a misunderstanding, that I was being irrational. Sarah, smart like her mother, said, Then why are there court documents saying you forged her signature and stole nearly $1 million? He hung up on her. The next week, everything moved fast. The court froze all of Robert's accounts, including the one in Mexico. The Mexican authorities seized the Puerto Vallarta condo as property purchased with proceeds from fraud. Carmen, suddenly losing her luxury condo and her boyfriend's money, vanished from social media. Criminal charges were filed. Robert was arrested at his office in front of his colleagues. The local news picked it up. Arizona man arrested for defrauding wife of nearly $1 M in real estate scam. I watched the news clip from Sarah's couch. My husband, in handcuffs, refusing to comment as they walked him to a police car. I didn't feel satisfaction yet, just numbness. The legal process took 18 months. Long, grinding months of depositions, document review, court hearings. Robert tried to fight it at first, claimed I'd known about everything, had consented to the sales, was lying now out of spite. But the evidence was overwhelming. Tony's investigation had been thorough. We had documents proving I'd never signed the closing papers in person. We had the blank forms from 2019 with my signature that Robert had kept in his home office. We had text messages between him and Carmen talking about his plan to liquidate everything. We had bank records showing the money trail. His lawyer eventually advised him to take a plea deal. In the end, Robert pleaded guilty to forgery, fraud, and embezzlement. The judge sentenced him to 5 years in federal prison. He was ordered to pay full restitution, $850,000 plus legal fees and damages. The Mexican government returned the seized condo to me, and I sold it immediately. That money, plus the return of the stolen funds, came to just over $1.2 million. The civil case was even more satisfying. Catherine argued that because Robert had systematically defrauded me and planned to abandon me after draining our assets, I was entitled to everything. Not just the stolen money, but our remaining property, his pension, his 401k, everything. The judge agreed. Carmen tried to file a claim, saying she'd been deceived too and deserved compensation. The judge dismissed it. She'd benefited from stolen property, even if unknowingly. She walked away with nothing but the photos from her Instagram. The Tempe duplex is still mine. So is Robert's pension and retirement accounts. So is the money from selling the Mexican condo. All told, between returned funds, property value, and retirement accounts, I ended up with close to $1.8 million. Robert won't be eligible for parole for 3 more years. He's 76 now. By the time he gets out, he'll be 79, broke, and branded a felon. He sent me one letter from prison claiming he was sorry, that he'd made mistakes, that he still loved me. I burned it without finishing it. Carmen moved back to Texas. I found that out from a friend who followed the case. She apparently told people that she'd been a victim too, that Robert had lied to her. Maybe that was even true, but I couldn't find it in myself to care. Today, I'm 74. I live in a smaller house in Scottsdale, but I own it outright. The $1.8 million is invested conservatively, managed by a financial advisor Sarah helped me find. A woman advisor, someone I trust. The money generates enough income that I don't have to work. I retired from the law firm. Instead, I travel. Last year, I went to Italy for a month with Sarah. We ate pasta in Rome, explored Florence, drank wine in Tuscany. This spring, I'm planning a trip to Greece with my 2 grandchildren, Sarah's kids. They're 13 and 15 now, old enough to appreciate history. I spend every Tuesday afternoon with them, helping with homework, teaching them about money and trust, and how to protect themselves. I've started a small blog about financial fraud awareness for seniors. It gets a few hundred readers a month, mostly women my age who've seen things that made them wonder. Sometimes, I think about those 35 years with Robert. Were any of them real? Did he ever actually love me? Or was I always just useful? Someone who worked hard, who managed the day-to-day, who signed papers when asked and didn't ask questions? I don't know. I'll probably never know. But here's what I do know. I survived. I fought back. I trusted my instincts when something felt wrong, and I didn't let fear or embarrassment stop me from finding the truth. The investigator, Tony Martinez, told me something in that first meeting that stuck with me. He said, "Mrs. Collins, you're about to become very rich." At the time, I thought he meant the money. And yes, I got the money back, plus more, but he was right in a way he didn't even know. I became rich in ways that have nothing to do with dollars, rich in self-respect. Rich in the knowledge that I can stand up for myself. Rich in the relationship with my daughter, who saw me fight and learned that she can fight too. Rich in the freedom to build whatever life I want now. I'm 74 years old, and my life is just beginning. Sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I think about other women out there. Women who've signed papers without reading them. Women who've trusted their husbands with the big picture. Women who've noticed something wrong but talked themselves out of it. If you're watching this, if something in your gut is telling you to look closer, trust that feeling. You're not paranoid. You're not being disloyal. You're being smart. Hire the investigator. Ask the questions. Check the records. Don't wait 35 years like I did. And if you find out you were right, if your worst fears are confirmed, know that you can survive it. You can fight. You can win. I did. And if I can do it at 72, you can do it at any age. The truth might hurt, but living a lie hurts more. And on the other side of that truth, there's freedom, there's justice, there's a life you get to build on your own terms. I'm living proof.